Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Katan, we have quite a wide variety of topics that we're going to discuss, including mass shootings here, several in the United States. Yeah. We have Pope Leo, weighing in on some political topics now, kind of making that first step out there and voicing his thoughts on some of those. So we'll have those details. We also are going to be discussing an earthquake in the Philippines. So, some of these areas just don't seem to get a break. And then also the fires in California left something behind that now residents have to face at this time before they can rebuild. So those details and many more. But first, American President Donald Trump has raised eyebrows with his warning to pregnant women not to take a well-known over-the-counter pain reliever. So please listen closely to what he has to say, as well as the questions that it's raising. Take a look.
President Trump appeared on national television today and made an announcement that will raise a lot of questions. We will try our best tonight to answer them for you. The president said pregnant women should not take acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol.
That is because, the president claimed, use of Tylenol in pregnancy is linked to a rise in autism in children. Our Dr. John LaPook is here to help us understand the implications, but we begin with Ed O'Keefe at the White House. Ed?
Good evening. The president's been under enormous pressure from his health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the movement the secretary leads to figure out the increase in autism cases across the country in recent years. And the president said what they announced today is just the start.
President Trump today tried reversing decades of medical advice given to pregnant women.
Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it.
Specifically, the Food and Drug Administration is set to tell physicians that using acetaminophen, an active ingredient in Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with increased risk of autism, and that pregnant women should use it only in extreme circumstances.
See cases of extremely high fever that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has spent years pushing unproven theories about what causes autism.
And we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find.
Just last month, Trump's own FDA said it has not found clear evidence that appropriate use of acetaminophen during pregnancy causes birth or development issues. The parent company of Tylenol said it's the safest pain reliever option for pregnant women. That's because ibuprofen and aspirin are already discouraged for pregnant women due to risks of miscarriage or birth defects.
What do you say to those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate?
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic, that is chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth. Women are confused about that and they want answers to that.
Today's announcement is part of a years-long push by Kennedy to remake the nation's public health system. Democrats have called on him to resign.
Every single day, there's been an action that endangers the health and wellness of American families.
While the latest CBS News polling shows a majority disapprove of the job he's doing.
And there is strong criticism of the announcement from the medical community. The head of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists called it highly unsettling. The top officials, quote, are willing to make an announcement that will affect the health and well-being of millions of people without the backing of reliable data.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
Well, there's been many concerns for quite some time over acetaminophen, but we've never really had the president weigh in on it before.
Right, and an interesting comment that he made that there are people that don't take the vaccines and other things, and they're perfectly fine. So
Right.
kind of a side comment there that had a lot of merit.
Yeah, a lot of that dynamic is shifting. Right. But like Jeff, this, of course, like I said, it's not the first time, that this has taken place. The president's never weighed in on it before, but we're going to actually take a look at a video report, from 2013, so 12 years ago, in which ABC News exposes acetaminophen, which is the main ingredient in Tylenol, and showing how it is the #1 cause in sudden liver failure in the United States. Let's take a look.
Warning tonight about popular pain relievers, how too much acetaminophen can take a serious toll. And now Tylenol is taking action. Here's ABC's Lindsay Davis.
Tylenol believes the right pain reliever for you is one that works with your body.
It's advertised as tough on pain, easy on your stomach. But it's what Tylenol might do to your liver that has the manufacturer issuing the new warnings. Johnson & Johnson says starting in October, the caps of new bottles of extra-strength Tylenol will have this message in big red print: contains acetaminophen, and always read the label.
Extra strength Tylenol tablet and acetaminophen pill is 500 milligrams. So you can take 8 of those every day, spaced out properly, and you'd still be within the safe range.
The pain-relieving ingredient is the nation's leading cause of sudden liver failure. The pain-relieving ingredient is the nation's leading cause of sudden liver failure. The pain-relieving ingredient is the nation's leading cause of sudden liver failure. And as 33-year-old Riley McDermott learned firsthand, it isn't just found in Tylenol.
If my fiance had gotten me to the ER maybe half an hour later, I would be dead.
After inadvertently overdosing on a combination of prescription codeine for an ankle injury and another medicine to help her sleep, she ultimately ended up on a liver transplant list.
You're in pain and you take something, and you just don't even think about it building up in your body.
Liver damage is extremely rare. The more common problem is people overdosing on the drug, which sends as many as 80,000 people in the U.S. to the ER each year.
Katan, that is a very strong label to be labeled the #1 cause of sudden liver failure in the United States for any over-the-counter pain reliever.
Right, unbelievable.
Well, turning now to something that has grown into a public health crisis, according to the CDC, dementia. Now, 2 out of every 5 Americans age 55 or older are expected to develop this disease, which steals a person's memories, causing them to forget who they and their loved ones are anymore.
Well, Dr. Gladys Maestre from McAllen, Texas, has been studying the increase in patients who have dementia for many years. Now, she goes from house to house, visiting with those who say their memories are failing them. Quote, "Everywhere I go, people will pull me and say, 'My mother, my sister, I have memory problems.'" Well, from her study, the results were shocking. Well, she discovered that unlike the national average of 12%, the cases of dementia were close to 20% in people over 65 years old.
But regardless of these findings, she feels we should double the number, and it would be more accurate at 40%. So she is looking at genetic factors, health problems, including things like diabetes and pollution, as well as generational issues like trauma and poverty. So why it's taking place in the Rio Grande Valley is unclear to Dr. Maestre.
Well, that's probably the hardest part of suffering from this dementia, is that a person realizes it is taking place, but there is nothing they can do to stop it. Well, the state of Texas is they have almost 500,000 people with the disease, and state lawmakers there are approving a $3 billion bill that will fund research to take place over the next 10 years. Now, the voters, of course, will still have to approve it this fall, but Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is hopeful they will, telling Eye on America, quote, "I never had a bigger response than this bill."
Well, Dr. Maestre has come up with cutting-edge testing with biomarkers which can identify who's at risk and put those patients on a preventative program. And for those who are already diagnosed with dementia, they are struggling to find out how they can make the quality of life with their loved ones last.
Well, on the 1st of October, Americans woke up to find out the U.S. government had begun a partial shutdown over funding disputes. While the Post Office and Social Security are among the agencies still in operation because, of course, they're considered essential, others are shut down. This affects almost 4 million federal workers. Some will still have to work without pay, like TSA agents and air traffic controllers. Others, well, they're going to be sent home until a deal is reached.
Well, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, has been working to get Democrats to agree to funding the government for 7 more weeks. Now, he shared, quote, "There are some conversations. There are Democrats who are very unhappy with the situation they're in. And what we're saying is that we need, as I think what we pointed out here, basically another 5, and then he said we need 8 total, referring to more weeks."
But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer agrees with Democrats that cuts to Medicaid need to be restored and Obamacare tax credits should be extended, which would prevent millions of Americans' insurance premiums from going sky high.
Now, during a government shutdown, government employees are required to work but receive no pay. So the president of Union Representing Prison Workers, John Zumker, tells the report, saying, "We need the government to stay open so that we don't have to live off our credit cards, that we don't have to take multiple loans just to pay our mortgage, to pay our daily necessities." So they have to work, but they're not getting paid.
Yeah, well, while they work, they still have car insurance and transportation, gas, and things.
The bills don't stop.
That's right. Well, the longest government shutdown lasted 35 days and was back in 2018 when President Trump was also in office. But what comes next? If there is no deal today, well, lawmakers will be taking off for the Yom Kippur holiday. So the earliest anything could change would be Friday.
Well, we brought you back in January news regarding the devastating wildfires in California, but rebuilding after the fire isn't as easy as it would seem. Now, contaminants in the soil are a major concern. Now, this next video will shed some light on the walls contaminated soils are building for residents who want to rebuild. Take a look.
In Altadena, California, thousands of homeowners are trying to rebuild the homes destroyed by the devastating wildfires in January. But a new report shows the ground where many of those homes once stood may be highly contaminated.
Armed with a spoon and sandwich bags, lifelong Altadena resident Gillian Selsby digs up some of the land she's called home for decades to be tested for toxins.
It's a little scary because I'm wondering what's going to be in it.
3 generations of her family lost homes in January to the Eaton fire. She and her parents all plan to rebuild in Altadena. But before they break ground, they have to be sure their land is safe.
Are you concerned that their property has contaminants as well?
Yes, because their home was built in 1925. I'm concerned because they're older, and I want to make sure that they aren't exposed to anything that could be unhealthy.
In its final report, the Los Angeles County Health Department found a sizable number of Altadena properties had significantly higher levels of lead than what the state deems safe. The University of Southern California is leading its own testing project for concerned families. Director Sujit Rao.
We know that lead is a dangerous contaminant that can be present in places in or near fires. And that's true whether your home burned down or was partially damaged or only had smoke damage, or even if you were downwind and just sort of had a lot of smoke and ash fall in your yard.
Exposure to lead can cause brain and kidney damage and developmental delays.
The risk is that if young children or people who are pregnant come in contact with soils that have really elevated levels of lead, over time, that lead can accumulate in the body.
Rao says USC's findings are consistent with LA County's report, which found that lead contamination was present even after the Army Corps of Engineers scraped 6 inches of soil from damaged properties.
Why can't you take another 6 inches? I am glad that we can do our own soil testing now, just to make sure it's safe to build.
More than 1 in 3 Altadena homeowners say they haven't gotten the soil testing they want, according to Department of Angels, an advocacy group. In extreme cases, homeowners will have to remove the hazardous soil.
Well, if you remember, that was, January when those wildfires kind of were getting wrapped up. And of course, it takes a little while to rebuild, but now they've got to worry about all these other contaminants in the soil that are actually preventing them from doing anything to kind of get some sense of normalcy back into their lives.
Right, and scraping off 6 inches and still finding contaminants. So, you have all that soil that you have to deal with that you scraped off, but then still it's not enough.
That's right. That's right. Well, what does a bar and a church have in common? Well, it's not a joke. In today's report, the connecting link this time is mass shootings. Now, in Michigan, this took place, this latest round of mass shootings. And for more on the unfolding story, take a look at this next video.
We begin with 2 mass shootings. The first at a waterfront bar in Southport, North Carolina. 3 people were killed. The second happened at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. The church was badly damaged, as you see there, by fire after police say a man crashed his vehicle into the building, then opened fire on worshipers. At least 2 people were killed, 8 others injured. President Trump tonight called it, quote, horrendous, adding this appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians.
And Jerika, this happened inside a massive church complex in a small suburb of Flint, Michigan. There were hundreds of people inside, and tonight, police are still searching for a motive.
We have an active shooter at the church, and they're all TVs on scene saying the building's on fire.
Gunfire erupted inside this Grand Blanc, Michigan church during Sunday service. Authorities believe 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from nearby Burton, Michigan, drove this truck into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints before gunning down worshipers with an assault rifle and setting the building on fire.
I need manpower up here ASAP. I have people trapped in the building. Repeat, people trapped in the building.
The gunman was killed in a shootout with police. Tony Deck lives next door to the church.
I saw 4 tarps at the time. I don't know what's left there now, but 4 body tarps. It was right up the street from my house, probably 300 yards. Police everywhere, 50, 100 police cops, ambulances, fire trucks everywhere.
Thick, billowing black smoke could be seen for miles above and around the huge church complex for hours before crews put out the fire.
And we do believe that there was people up there that were near that fire and they were unable to get out of the church. So we do believe that we will find additional victims once we're able to search.
Gatan, these mass shootings are really becoming more commonplace. You really never know. So I imagine no matter where people are, they have to have that in the back of their minds. Could I be involved in the next mass shooting?
Yeah, so. Any place, any person, anytime. There's no, respecter of persons in regards to these events.
Terrible. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, from mass shootings to mass panic, as a magnitude 6.9 earthquake shook the island of the Philippines. Bogo City was a city built to house those who survived Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. And even though most people can prepare for disasters like typhoons, earthquakes almost always come as a surprise, making it difficult for anyone to prepare for. Now those who were affected are focusing on rebuilding.
Well, U.S. President Trump is preparing to send troops to Portland, Oregon, with authority to use full force towards what he calls a war-ravaged city. Well, leaders in the city are voicing their concerns that they didn't request this deployment. Now, the purpose, of course, is protecting Portland and any ICE facilities from coming under siege from Antifa or any other anti-government protesters. Now, Department of Homeland Security leaders are accusing those groups of attacking facilities, and they want to, quote unquote, safeguard federal agents there.
Well, the governor of Oregon doesn't want the troops in her state and says that there is no reason for troop deployment. And the police chief says that the city has been safer than it has been in recent years.
Well, someone who says I'm against abortion, but I'm for the death penalty is not really pro-life. Those aren't our words. Those are words from Pope Leo in a recent press conference interview as the Pope is finding himself weighing in on more political matters. Well, he was asked about a Chicago Cardinal awarding an Illinois senator, who is Dick Durbin, a Lifetime Achievement Award, the award which Mr. Durbin did turn down after a lot of the Cardinals, voiced their objections to it. But Durbin, well, he's pro-abortion, something the Catholic Church opposes. The Pope cautioned people not to judge political figures based on a single issue.
Well, he further emphasized his point by bringing up the inhumane treatment of immigrants in the U.S. Now, the Pope never mentioned President Trump by name, but the implications were apparent. The White House responded by saying the administration, referring to the U.S., are trying to enforce our laws in the most humane way possible. Now, Pope Francis and President Trump had some verbal saber-rattling regarding the immigrant issue earlier this year. And the Pope saying, quote, "The act of deporting people damages the dignity of many men and entire families."
Well, Trump's border czar responded by saying in an interview on the topic, quote, "He's got a wall around the Vatican, does he not? He's got a wall around to protect his people and himself, and we can't have a wall around the United States?" Well, the Pope also addressed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's speech to military commanders saying, quote, "This way of speaking is worrying because it shows each time an increase in tensions, this vocabulary, even shifting from Minister of Defense to Minister of War." He said, "Let's hope it's only a way of speaking." And, we're seeing a lot of those tensions take place, and the Pope is doing, seemingly as he kind of settles into his position, speaking out about things that are concerning him, but it's not really moving any particular government or leader in one direction or another.
Right, and this is the first time he really is jumping out there since being elected the new Pope. And having these type of discussions. So it's interesting now because, before he's elected, everybody says, well, he's this way or that way. But until he starts commenting on there, you don't really know exactly where he stands. So interesting to see what else he's going to comment on.
That's right.
Well, if you want to find out more about these stories, contact the House of Yahweh. When you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the monthly newsletter and the Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. You can visit them by going to any of their websites at yahweh.com, yisroelhawkins.com, or yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to YPNnews.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@yahweh.com. And for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. And don't forget the Israel Says and Ask Israel programs. You can find those by going to YisraelSays.com or AskYisrael.com.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next is another classic message from Yisroel Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.